Welcome to the Creative Entrepreneur Show. What do we have this week, Bryon?
Hey, Rosh, happy to be here. One of two creative guys talking AI. And as promised last week, I do have a follow-up with my own experience with Invideo.
Hmm.
And where I'm going to pivot it today is I'm going to compare it directly to Runway. And these are
Okay.
two different video creation sources that are completely different. So I'm excited to get into that. And then
Yeah.
a little later, I've got something pretty fun, little cliffhanger for people. It's a story about a guy who used AI, and then he combined it with another AI. And you know what he got? He
What?
got himself a felony.
All right.
So, and this is a little cautionary tale. We want to tell AI from all sides of things. So we want to make
Yeah.
sure we're staying above board with things. So, but yeah, what do you have going on today, Ross?
So I want to talk about hallucinations and prompt engineering. There's an interesting story that I'll talk about where I got it from. I want to give the person credit. It's an interesting story. It's a tale that I think pretty much any of us can use to help us with our prompt to minimize hallucinations and get better quality out of our AIs. And then I want to talk about four visual tools that you just may not know about right now. They're new and worth checking out.
Great. All right. Well, we're excited to chat about those. But yeah, so I actually did a little screen grab this week, and I'll have an example. We can share it up as a short up on our YouTube page of how I used InVideo. And so again, I'll go back to my creative. This is what I do when it's 8 p.m. and later, and I've got time at my computer, and I can work on creative stuff for my band.
Right.
So I'm the one trying to make music videos. And again, we are not a big budget band. In fact, we're just a bunch of dads trying to make some noise. So we really don't have any budget. So this is my way of trying to bootstrap, getting some really cool visuals together. And, it's important to me that when I do publish something, it doesn't go, I don't go to the comment section and immediately get lit up by people saying, oh, cheap AI, you used AI, how dare you?
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it why people make those comments because, as we always say, and we'll say it every episode, garbage in, garbage out. So if getting an output of AI that's not good, well, that's because you were lazy about it and you weren't creative
Hmm.
and you didn't still try to make an overall music video. So, if you just click a button and all of a sudden the whole video is produced, yeah, that's absolutely cheating. You should get lit up in the comment section. Now, on the other hand, if you have all the forethought of all the visuals that you want for this music video, and you're combining it with maybe some live clips or clips that you've taken in studio of your band actually performing these songs, and you make it look like an actual music video, but the B-roll maybe doesn't have to be B-roll that you spent a lot on or anything like that.
Right.
So in video, as you talked about last week, an absolutely amazing program. I was pretty floored by what it was able to create, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for this purpose, but I could still use its output.
Okay.
So in summary, what InVideo does is you give it a prompt of, hey, I want this. So again, I gave the same prompt that I gave Runway a few weeks back where I was like, hey, I want a visual of an owl flying through a city, looking at this nightscape, but I want some dreamlike, aspects brought in. And, here's our main colors. Here's our logo. These are what these different things look like. And produce me a video. So now when I did this with Runway, Runway was like making me a cartoon. So it was fully animating something from nothing, just based on my prompts. And
Right.
it missed the mark plenty of times. There were tons of, as you said before, hallucinations and different things in
Yeah.
there that were weird and didn't quite fit right. Whereas in video, what they did is they essentially scraped all of the available open source video that, whether
Right.
it's Getty or, these different sources, and they put it together in a pretty smart way where it told the story that I was trying to tell. And there were some really cool owl clips and really cool downtown city clips, but it didn't create something new or original.
Right.
And that's the really big difference of this. So now with some of the benefits of using InVideo, it's great. It came up with its own script, and I didn't ask it to. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to use any of it. But some of the things that the script said were pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And, just the imagery that the voice was, depicting where it was talking about this owl flying through a nighttime scene. And, it made some really cool, expressions and different things that I'm like, I can use that in different ways, maybe creatively,
Hmm.
or, but, at the end of the day, I'm going to just remove the audio from this. So I don't
Right.
really care too much about that. But in different purposes, I can see how that would be overwhelmingly effective. If you're trying to put together a short video and you want it voiced over, and it was cool. I was going through the tutorial. In your prompt, you can tell it exactly what type of voice you want. So, in
Hmm.
the little prompt example, it was like, all right, now do this in a Southern USA accent, or
Yeah.
now do this sounding a little like Morgan Freeman. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I don't want to, exactly steal somebody's vocal thing. So that's where, I tell my audience, it's like, hey, you definitely want to use discretion in what you're asking the prompt from, because it's going to get you something pretty accurate to sounding like some famous voices or things like that. So, but will I be able to use the video that was exported? I think so, because there are still some really good bits of imagery in there. So it's like, all right, I'm going to export this video, and in my overall music video, maybe 5 to 15 seconds of the overall 3-minute video might be little clips from this.
Okay.
Whereas I can also take what Runway produced me, where that's a little more animated looking, because it's actually
Yep.
generating the video based on your prompt and it's animating it. And one of the things, Runway it's great about is uploading an image. So I get a lot of really good images from Dolly that I like, that really depict, what I'm going for. And then to animate that image out and make that, come to life. And that's really cool in the art, that feeds to my artistic side of, I want to create something that hasn't been seen before.
Right.
Whereas in video, it's everything, these are actual stock clips that are available. And then, when you sign up for it the right way, you then get the proper licensing to use those types of things.
Of course. Right. Right.
Yeah. So just to explain to our audience that, hey, there are so many different AI tools, and they're all going to serve their own little purpose
Yeah.
and produce you different types of output. And it's up to you, the creative, to use them the right way and to be effective with them, or to throw some of them away because they're not effective or not filling your vision.
Yeah.
So have you seen? I know you've used both programs. Have you seen any of these? I mean,
I
obviously the
mean, they're
base
really
functionality of them,
just,
but
yeah, they're just for different uses. I mean, one is creating unique imagery, and one is kind of like a narrated slideshow in a sense. And
yeah,
I mean, it has video within it, but um, obviously there are times you want still photography, there's times you want video, there's times that you want illustration, and so
mhm,
different tools will give you what you need, because it specializes in a different presentation or way in which it presents the material. So yeah, I think they're very different, but very handy depending on what you're trying to do.
right. And it's up to us, the creatives, to use them in the right way to make something that is better than we could have created otherwise.
Yeah, right. What story do you want to tell, and how do you want to tell it?
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. Well, speaking of stories and crazy things, you're going to talk a little bit about hallucinations. And
So
no, we're not
yeah, I
talking about illegal drugs here.
no, 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 no. Nate B. Jones is what he goes by on TikTok and YouTube, and I really have appreciated his work. He doesn't have a huge yeah, bigger following on TikTok and YouTube, and I really appreciate it. I feel like I actually know him. I did see him sporting some Michigan wear the other day, so I'm thinking I may have actually run across him. But he's very intelligent in what he says, and he talked about the case text situation about a year ago, and they were purchased by Reuters. And this was a company that has been around for a while, but they started, just like many of us, changing, seeing the writing on the wall and making adjustments into the AI world. And so they made a large language model for lawyers. Now, as you can tell just by saying that, or you may sense that that thing that better be good. There better not be any hallucinations.
Right.
Otherwise, there's going to be a problem. And so what they did is they kept just drilling down until they got it right. And they did a really good job. But the key and really the punchline to this whole thing is, if you don't want hallucinations, you need to give a lot of information.
Yeah.
You need to drill down more and more. Now, if you're training an AI, you're going to have to drill down more and more and keep testing different scenarios and different ways in which the audience that you're going after is using the LLM, and how are they what types of stuff are they presenting and what do they need back, and just keep dissecting and dissecting and dissecting. And that's how you're going to get it. Now, they kept doing that and they sold their company for $650 million. So it was worth the time and effort.
Yeah.
But it really just made me think about, again, our continuous theme on the prompting side, how important it is to just give more and more details. If you want good quality return, you need to get into the details of exactly what you want returned back to you. And that is true of the text-based, or just as we were talking about the video, as well as the still imagery. I mean, whatever it may be, whatever you're trying to create, get as detailed as possible, and that's going to give you a better result.
Right. And one of the things, to kind of answer back to that, and I had an example of just how I used AI this week, and I really did have to kind of yell at it.
Yeah.
I did it politely for fear of the robot revolution. I'm still always going to be nice to
Yeah,
them,
you want to be in the
but
good column.
I want to be in the good column, but I did tell it, hey, you are flat out wrong. And it
Yeah.
gave, and it apologized. And it was like,
Yeah.
you know what? You're right. I was very wrong. And so essentially what I did was I helped my mother calculate. She just moved across the street from me.
Hmm.
And they moved out here from Connecticut. And, they sold their home in Connecticut for a good amount more than the home they purchased in Michigan. And she thought she was in one world of how much money she made, and she was pretty wrong on that. But so I went through the AI and I showed her, well, I asked the AI at first, hey, they sold this house for this, they did that. Here's how much they spent on the move. Here's how much they spent on renovations. Assume standard realtor fees and tell me exactly how much they made. And then
Right.
it did this whole huge long prompt. And I said, okay, that's cool. But you know what? They put 40,000 down on that mortgage they paid for only 6 months.
Right.
Recalculate how much interest they spent over that 6 months based on that 40,000 down. And it then spit out a number that was so wrong. It went from like they made,
Math is not one of the strong
30,000.
points right now. They're getting better,
Yeah.
but not. Yeah.
But I was surprised by this because they all of a sudden it said, oh, they made 200,000. I'm like, before you told me they made like 30, 40,000. And now we got a big difference here.
Yeah.
So, I kind of yelled at it. I was like, no, this is absolutely wrong. The numbers should be way closer to the original one. Redo the calculations. And it said, you know what? You're right. I made this mistake here. And it completely redid the calculations. And I was like, okay, that's great. I said, now break this down in a very simple way that my 70-year-old mom, who's not the best at math, would understand. Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, and then I was able to send her some screenshots and let her know where she was, kind of really at. But it was like, it was a random hallucination in the numbers where all of a sudden
Yeah.
it, just put something in the wrong spot.
Sometimes you really just have to start over, or like you did, a way of starting over was yelling at it, saying you're completely wrong, start over.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just to start a new conversation, because I find that with coding, I'll ask it to do something and it'll update and add code from earlier that it thinks I still want, and it'll even mess things up. So
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes it's just good to completely start over, because I've spent hours on coding projects in which it's like we're going in circles here,
Yeah.
absolute circles, and you're not fixing the issue the way I want. And so yeah, that's the way to do it. Yelling at your AI. It's
Yeah.
okay.
But,
Just don't
keep it
curse.
above board, exactly. So, but all right. So, well, to hop in, my second topic here, AI plus AI equaling a felony. So
Ooh,
here's a little cautionary tale. So a gentleman from North Carolina, he's facing felony fraud charges for using AI the wrong way.
ooh,
So what he did was he produced a whole bunch of AI music, pretty much
mm,
press a button and the music pops out,
yep.
and uploaded it to the streaming services. And then he used AI programs to artificially stream those songs tens of
Okay.
thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times.
Oh,
So over years, he ended up actually getting billions of streams and made about 10 million in illegal royalties.
no.
So, this has taken money away from real songwriters,
Yeah,
real
right.
musicians, things like that. But just a cautionary tale that, yes, these programs are here and you can, manipulate them to do this or that. But you still got to follow normal laws and stuff. And, the FBI got involved here. And really where it hit its head was in 2023. there were tracks that he was producing where he was actually mimicking the voices of popular artists like Drake, The Weeknd, stuff like that, and
Oh
they
yeah.
went viral. So you might have heard of this when it happened
Yeah.
back in 23. So all of a sudden
Yeah.
they got really popular, and then very popular high-profile musicians like Elvis Costello, Billie Eilish, Aerosmith, they then immediately signed an open letter like urging the music industry to stay away from this predatory AI generated content.
Hmm.
And it's just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Yes.
and
There's a
and
truth right there.
there are consequences. So just because we're still in, as we say, the wild west of AI right now, you don't want to do these things to make money that you shouldn't be making, or to break the overall rules. But also, we don't want to be just producing music that's ripping off these famous musicians and having them get to trying to do that to make money. It's one
Yeah.
thing to put up a post and be funny and be like, hey, I've seen funny ones where it's like, if Kurt Cobain played a Nickelback song or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that. And,
I've seen
it's
those are funny. Yeah.
every bit of my inside, kind of
Yeah.
is like, this is wrong. Why am I listening to this? But it's still, entertaining. But, essentially, he found himself in some big trouble trying to make big money by, artificially working the system. So, yeah, just something I saw, fascinating. And I thought our audience, being creative entrepreneurs and everything, would take something away from that. So,
Right.
all right, I'm excited for this. I've been on the edge of my seat. The 4 new visual tools that everybody needs to know.
Yeah, four new visual tools. They're actually topics that we've talked about, and actually one of them you talked about. But Imagen 3 is out with Google. So if you go to Gemini and type it in, it is coming. It's free and available to everybody. I think there's some limitations on the free side. I did compare it. I
Mm,
did compare what was produced, and my usual husky or Australian Shepherd in the daisy field that looked pretty good. But when I worked with people, Midjourney still beat them out. Still beat them out.
Midjourney.
Now I didn't compare all of them, and that's something we will do. We're going to do some more comparison.
Yeah,
I see people really are interested in that kind of stuff online, so we'll do some more comparison videos and things like that as we ramp up. Step by step with us. We come with with ideas, and it takes us a little time to launch it. I think the YouTube channel took at least 6 months.
right. Well, that's because we are actually humans making a
Yeah,
podcast.
we are actually
Oh,
out there helping
yeah.
people with their social media, digital marketing, SEO. So yeah, we're doing stuff and creating AI programs and so forth. So yeah, hey, imagine that, feeding the family. But anyway, so I thought that Midjourney did a better job still with people when it came to overall looks, especially. But not that it's bad on the upgrade. The upgrades is better, but still not as good as others. Chat GPT, I think something that people are not using, speaking of, um, is the ability to edit. I mean, do you realize you can edit within your chat GPT? Type in, this is what I want. You'll get a photo. And then there is a little button. I think it's up at the upper right. It's an edit button. And you can go over a little bit area. Let's say there's a tree in the scene that you don't want. You can go over and say, remove that tree. And it's really good. Or add something here. So you can edit that way. So that's using DALL-E 3, and it looks
Okay,
pretty
that's
good.
new.
And
Yeah,
it
I've
does,
never used that functionality. That's great.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
thank you
something.
for a
It's one
ton
of
of
those
imagery.
little functionalities that's been there for a little while that people just don't realize is available to them.
Guilty.
So,
Yeah.
okay, another one, Kling. That this is a like Runway, kind of a video creation tool that we don't you a lot of people don't talk about often. We like Runway. We've used it quite a bit, but Kling is
Mhm.
another one that we've talked about. They've added lip syncing, so that's something you may want to dive into with your stuff.
Yes.
That could be
Huh.
really good. So they've added lip syncing in the last week. That's worth it, right there. And then lastly, Runway. Uh, you didn't mention it. I'm not sure if you realize it. I'm sure you do because you use. I think you use Runway more than I do. But the Gen 3 Turbo is out,
Mhm.
and that allows you to put in two different images that morph into each other. So I thought that was really good. I did a couple tests and it was good. It was really good. So before you turbo, meaning it generates very quickly. It's in the queue for a moment. And but once it goes, you're just watching that number 0, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, and the next thing you know, boom, there it is. But now you can, as we could before, we could, as we've, let's say, for some of my videos, YouTube videos, I put the thumbnail in and had it morph into something. Well, now you could take the thumbnail and then maybe the first frame of your video,
Yeah.
and so you have the first and the last, and it'll actually morph into you perfectly, and or to your first frame of your video, or whatever you want it to do, whatever you want those two parts of the morphing from one to another. And like I said, I did a nice test and it worked. I thought it was brilliant the way it worked.
Very cool.
A way I didn't even expect. I thought it was better than I was hoping for. Now I haven't done that many experiments to say, hey, this is going to be perfect every time. But a lot of times when we test these things, the first time we test it, it sucks,
Hmm.
because we're just learning how to work it. This was not the case. So
Wow.
again,
Nice.
I'll show some examples of that. These are the
Please.
types of things we will show
Right.
on the channel. I think hopefully more and more as we continue on. I have time set aside uh, next Monday actually to really spend some time developing and then releasing some of these things on our YouTube channel, because I think it's going to be important. And also, I think it'll help us find some more creative entrepreneurs who are right now wondering what the heck, what can I do? And I
Right.
think it's important for us to be here.
Yes. Yeah. I love that we're bringing more of a visual aspect to this show. And, I encourage anyone who's listening, and obviously we appreciate you listening very much. But if you just take a moment, go over to YouTube, type Creative Entrepreneurs Show, give us a like, a follow. And that way, you're queued up in the algorithm to see our content as it keeps coming out.
Very good. All right. Anything else?
No, no, we
All
were good.
right.
Actually, I think I even covered a little more than usual today. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, Rosh. How about you?
I'm doing great. I think we've done our job as two creative guys talking AI. We'll talk to you next week.